Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The house is very, very cold. And it's not unusual. I remember back in school when a professor has done justice to his class. Sometimes we're just in a trance-like state, a little confused, trying to actually imagine what his mindset is. And I've listened to Mr. Richard a few times. For people who don't know him, he's my boss. He's always been my boss. I cut my teeth under him from very way back. And I must say that there is transition from being human. There's a transition from being human to being a professor. There's a clear dichotomy from that person who was Mr. Richard, my boss, the former managing director of Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, and now the prof. Jesus Christ. Light and day, they are very far apart. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a very warm applause. For a minute, I thought I was in some MBA class. And I think, sir, you have done critical justice to this topic. But before I start, I decided, I'm not going to do this alone. And I think I need to make this seat a bit warm. And so I choked one of my former colleagues, who is the General Manager, Commercial, for GHI Assets Limited. For those who don't know them, they are into airline representation and travel management services. Arguably, the biggest GSA in Nigeria, if I would say so myself. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. Christopher Isaiah. I told him that I'm going to pull him here, not because he's ready, but because I just know that I can catch him. Keep clapping. Embarrass him with some claps. Make him warmer. Are we afraid? Let's clap now. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. I am the only one who can do this to you, right? Thank you very much. At different times in our lives, in our professional life too, coincidentally, Chris has also learned for some times under Dr. Richard Aisuebeogun at ADC, coincidentally. So, sir, you are beginning to reap the fruits of your labor. Ladies and gentlemen, again, although it's originated from a tiny mind and a tiny house in Nigeria, Work for Love Africa is Pan-African, and I think Tony Ukachukwu deserves a round of applause. And I hope bigger brands will see the essence of trying to connect Africa. Before I start this session, I'll tell you a small story that might resonate with a lot of us, especially the younger generation who are in this .com world and the social media space. I'm young too. So there's a young girl called Pelumi Nubi who is driving from London to Lagos. And I know that quite a few of us here must be following her. I think she was involved in an accident 1 or 2 days ago. But beyond anything else, I think her journey already does justice to this topic. If we see how much she has had to overcome, her story is not only that of resilience, but to me is largely expository. For some borders, if I remember, I think perhaps Mali, and very, very obviously so, Liberia and Sierra Leone, she had to seek the assistance and intervention of the officers of the Nigeria embassy for them to allow a fellow West African who carries an ECOWAS passport and even managed to speak at least our adaptation of Creole. She's wearing low cut. Her hair is not permed. She wasn't having wigs so that we're not confused. She's not half caste. a full-blooded Nigerian going through what I would call almost, I don't even know, harakiri of the African system. To me, this girl epitomizes the challenge we have not liberalizing Africa. Sorry, I would just want to crave your indulgence again. Tony was out when we were clapping for him. So for birthing the idea behind WFLA and making it Pan-African, please indulge me. Let's clap for him again. Doctor, in your presentation, actually mentioned 4 countries that have achieved over 70% of what liberalization in Africa should actually represent. Of these 4 countries, 2 are in West Africa. The 2 that are in West Africa are Liberia and Cabo Verde. And we have Mozambique and Mali. And in my mind, these are not the biggest of economies. Could the reluctance of states by adopting the liberalization of Africa have anything to do with the size of the market? Why will Cape Verde think it very important and Nigeria, although it's at 50%, does not think is that important? Is it because the economy of Liberia is tracking very lowly, and as a result they are hungry to have people in their system? So why would you think so? And what would you recommend to medium compliance and low compliance states to do to at least transit or make some reasonable progress towards improving their compliance levels?
Thank you very much. I'd like to start my response by giving a very short story. Just about less than 15 years ago, we needed to fly to Bamako, Mali, and out of Lagos, there were no airlines to Bamako. And as I speak, I'm not too sure Air.Voa or Côte d'Ivoire flies direct to Bamako. Probably I have to get to the home country and find your way from there to Bamako. Bamako, or Mali, has a major economic potential, which has been grown over the years. They are the largest exporter of cow meat, and they export this to so many parts of Middle East. In fact, in the 90s, we operated a 707 aircraft cargo plane with about 40 tons, 40,000 kilograms, into Bamako, and this aircraft is filled with just cow meat. I'm breaking it down in a very simple English language we can understand. Cow meat. Imagine that. Just less than 15 years ago, we needed to fly to Bamako, and we couldn't find a single airline to take us to Bamako. We had to fly to Paris, and then from Paris down to Bamako. Now, why was that the case? I call him Mr. T. What's the attraction for signing off single African air transport market? That's the question. The initiative by the African Civil Aviation Commission drive that initiative is to ensure that every Africa is connected by air transport because of the experience we have all had over the years. Now, for those countries that seemingly appears to be small countries but keyed into it, they are recognizing potential of air transport as a tool for their economic growth. So they may have a ranking of priorities, but for them, air transport may just be number one, and say, look, we want to grow the economies of Cape Verde. I call it Cape Verde, that's the English version of Cabo Verde. Okay, we want to grow the economy of our country. Liberia says, look, we want to grow the economy of our country. And the fastest way we can grow it is by enhancing air transport markets. So let's open up our countries for everybody who can fly in, come in, and everybody who can go out of the country. Now, that is possibly one reason why you have those smaller countries taking the advantage. But on the other hand, the flip side of it, it's also possible that for the bigger countries who are lackadaisical, and one leg in, one leg out, like I said in my presentation, protectionism is a major limiting factor. Everybody is guarding jealously what they have, and they're looking beyond what they have now, limiting their view of the benefits when they allow other multiple airlines to come into their country. So sometimes we find a lot of countries that have signed bilateral service agreements with other countries, but there are some barriers put in, just along the way, and you find that this airline says they're going to start flying to Lagos 2 years ago. How come they have not come into Lagos? Meanwhile, the same airline is flying from their home country to some other parts of the world. So it's probably not because they're not interested. It's because there are some limitations. And I'll give you a very good example. The Afra conference of 2021, I was in Mauritius, and I met the MD of TAG Angola, and I said, look, I hope you guys are going to come to Lagos. You should be flying to Nigeria. And the gentleman said to me, Tony was also at that conference. We met in Mauritius, and the gentleman said to me, oh, Nigeria, we want to come. But look, the hurdles are taller than you. I mean, that was the simple response from the managing director, then managing director of TAG Angola. And I said, look, you should come, the market is here. Same night of the cocktail, the Cameroon airline guys, we started talking, and they said, look, we want to come to Nigeria, but we want to come, fly to Kano and Maiduguri. We don't want to come to Lagos, because they're going to operate from the northern Cameroon into the northern part of Nigeria. And they made all the efforts, but till this day, as I speak, 2.5 years later, they're yet to start. Not because they don't want to start, because the guy kept in touch with me, but because of certain limitations they have encountered. So we're saying that, look, let's break the barriers, and we know the barriers, and let's allow the market to dictate. Once the market is fluid, the dynamism will enhance the growth we're looking at. The growth is latent right now. The potentials are there, but we have to allow the market to engender growth.
Okay, thank you so much. It's amazing how time flies when we're trying to make so many roads. All right, so Doctor, just before I come back to you, in your presentation, you actually mentioned that 75% of Africa needs visa to travel, and that is not even limited to intercontinental travels. Even intra-African travels still seems to suffer from these visa regimes, just to even move from one place to the other. Chris, as a ticketing and travel guru, and I mean, one of those things Doctor also mentioned was also that despite that, there's low road and rail travel penetration even within Africa. Looking from the visa regime, What would you say has been your experience, whether with your customers or people that have consulted you on visa-related issues, and what do you think we could do differently?
So for visa regime, I know it's reciprocal. You know, you open up. For me, I opened to you. If you offer a visa, you know, I offer a visa to you. But I see a classic case in Rwanda. Rwanda opened up, made their country visa free, and we've seen the trajectory. We've seen the amount of growth. You know, they opened up ease of doing business. You can register a company in 3 days in Rwanda. We're seeing the amount of growth. In 2015, I visited Rwanda, and they said Rwanda is almost 60% dependent on foreign donor funds. But as we speak today, I think they are over 60% internally generated revenue. So they have grown in leaps and bounds. Visa regime has opened Rwanda to the world because they've liberalized the visa, and I see Kenya following suit in that regard. Is opening up tourism, is opening up, because like he alluded, somebody said you can pick, yes, you actually mentioned, you know, you can pick your bag overnight, you know, and you head to Rwanda. So you're opening up to people, and you are actually benefiting, you know, from the traffic there. But the case of Nigeria, if we open up, it means that more activity, more potentials, more network, you know, for our people. But we're still restrictive, you know, in our visa regime. We're not opening up to Africa. Meanwhile, Africa is looking up to Nigeria. Maybe we're the reason why the other people are not opening up. So we need to open up for the rest of Africa, because they're looking at our numbers. They're saying, oh, if I open up to 200 million people, they're going to swallow me up. But you are still holding back, you're not open to them. If we're open, chances are that they'll open up to us. So it's important too that we deal with the matter here. We're a giant of Africa. We need to show we need to lead by example. So it's important too that we put our best foot forward. If we do that, others will follow suit. So I think it is very important. And sometimes this begs the question, why is it easier for other people from other parts of the world to come to Africa, and yet in Africa we have imaginary walls? I can't travel to Bangui, for instance, Central African Republic, without visa. I can't go to Gabon without visa. Thankfully, Cameroon is magnanimous. You know, you can go to Cameroon, but you can't go to, in fact, Gabonese cannot go to Cameroon without visa. And the same thing too, and they are both in the same community, yeah. Regional community. So this is really, really challenging. What is the issue? We need to address all of these issues. And if we're not truthful to ourselves, we'll just we'll say all of these things, you know, come back again another year and nothing is changing. If you look at the heat map, you know, I was at another conference where they showed the global heat map. Africa is traveled. You know, there's no connectivity. Why do you have to go to a place in this age and time? You know, it takes you a whole day, you know, or 2 days to get to a place where you should get to in an hour. So it's very important. Visa regime, we need to open up, and it has to start from home.
Thank you very much. Visa regime, we need to open up, and it has to start from home. I have been notified that I need to round up very quickly, but before I do, I had promised that part of this thing will have to come from the floor. So I have a two-pronged question. And if anybody on the floor would like to answer, I would like to take this before we round up. The doctor has actually pointed out during his presentation the level of compliance to visa regimes by countries in Africa. And he said there's 39% compliance and 61% non-compliance. And my question is, has BASA overstayed its usefulness? What do we do? Number two is, coincidentally, Doctor was at the last Yamoussoukro Day event organized in Abuja by F.A.A.N. And I'm sure you're also privy to the drama that was going on by a representative minister of a state. I will not mention the name of the state. And one of those things I saw that might have been hindering the complete execution of SATAM and the liberalization of our skies is because AFCAC is still largely dependent on funding from the member states. And I could see the bold-faced assertion of that by the minister of the state I was talking about. What can AFCAC do differently to source alternative funding, or at least a funding that is not totally dependent on the whims and caprices of the states, to ensuring that we achieve the liberalization of African skies, seeing the advantages that I alluded to this. So if anybody wants to give it a go, please raise up your hand and let's engage. The gentleman over there, can somebody help me pass him the microphone?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ademola Soya. I don't see anything wrong with BASA, really. It's just document to look through to say this is how I want you to operate into my country. And like the gentleman beside you did say, it's always a reciprocatory thing. What you allow me to do in your country, I will allow you to do in my region as well. So BASA, I don't think BASA has a problem at the moment. We just need to look through the fine print and agree on what we want people to do. The main thing he did mention, and we have not really broken it down enough, is that most African countries are looking at Nigeria. We are like the big brother. Now, if Nigeria takes a step today, a major step, most African countries will follow suit. I believe that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If Nigeria takes a step, most African countries will follow through.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Toby Bangbushi. Well, I would like to say that as much more we try to project this movement, it's very important we also look at the side of government partnership, because most times airlines don't get ground approval for their aircraft, to land in a particular destination, and this is key. And until when our leaders, it's so unfortunate that most of African leaders are not even tourism wise, and probably even the Minister of Tourism don't even know, the responsibility they need to do, because until when we get this, because we can't take government out of this. That is very, very key. We can't take government out of this. So I believe all tourism bodies should, have a partnership with their government, so that, because it is so worrisome that I know a club in Nigeria, they're going to Mali to have a African club competition. They need to fly out of Africa before coming back to Africa. They got to the venue by 6 p.m. The match was 8. They were fatigued and they lost the match. So these are cases where even an ordinary passenger goes through. So the government role is highly key here, and I'm not sure if there is a major push from the industry to have to blend with the government, so that we can have a Schengen version in Africa. So, but to me, I don't know the function of AU. I don't know the function of ECOWAS. So if I can go to Nairobi, or I can go to Ghana, or I can go to Cameroon, just my flight tickets. So what are we brotherhooding for, in quotes? So we need to bring up, because this thing is it pains me a lot.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Patience from Postnap Travels Limited. I know we are talking about liberation of the skies in Africa, but I don't know if there's a way, just like he just said, most of the points I would have pinpointed about Africa. If we are talking about fares, we all know that Africa is not cheap to travel. What it cost me to go to Africa, I would have gone to Europe and back. and I will still have some pockets to do it. Africa is not cheap. So if there's a way we can still go back to look at the BASA and look at how it's going to work or make it easy for us here in Nigeria. Right. Yes, other African countries are actually making it difficult for Nigerians to come in, and as such, Nigeria as well is also streamlining their own rules to say, oh, the same hand you deal with me, I'm going to do the same with you. But I will employ that the more we go out working out for love, that same way we should also employ to other African airlines who were operating in Nigeria to reciprocate, find a way to revive their operation back, and also make some operations and some rules flexible for both the Nigerian citizens. Yes, governments will definitely come into play. Also make their own rules flexible for Nigeria, and same likewise will go out to them as well. So let's just look at how all those African airlines that have exited come back to see how movement can be easy. Like, I want to go to Gambia. I don't need to go to another city before I get to Gambia, just like I said. I want to fly Air Gambia to Gambia without how to find my way to another African country, spending hours to connect each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Looking at the table from our presenter, who has also been in the industry for a long time, you said the same thing. I could tell you that that graph and story started from the days of Yamoussoukro to the days of Satin, and up to this moment, there has not been any improvement. And if there has been, it's been very low compared to what to have. And that makes it, like Demola said, the BASA is inevitable for the moment, because we are not working as a team, so we cannot move that multilateral agreement at now. We have problems with the French West African countries, who are still have this stronghold to their colonizer. Stop it for the three military government that have taken over now. Those people follow whatever Air France wants. So it's very difficult to unite Africa. I was looking at this table, and if you look at those countries it commended for implementation, only Cape Verde has an airline. The other three don't have any airline, so they have no choice than to encourage people to, even if they have to use the 6th and 7th freedom, come and take. But Cape Verde needs tourists. So he had gone to that. I was surprised not to see Ethiopian Airline, who wants every other person's city, but are not releasing their own. I was surprised not to see them there. And I was surprised to see Morocco. Morocco is not even in the middle. Morocco is 9% below. And look at Morocco operates to 27 countries in Africa and 16 countries in Europe, but have far more designation in Europe than in Africa. So it shows where they prefer to trade with. We still have a long way to unite Africa on that. And then coming to the home front, happily the Minister of Tourism is here. I will beg her to speak to our counterpart, the Minister of Aviation, to look at how they can help reduce taxes and charges. That is killing air transport. If you want to go from here to Ghana, the minimum tax you have is about $280 without the fares of the airline. More than that. Now, so if taxes alone is about $300, how much is the ticket? How do you encourage travel? I also have one here from British Airways. I'm looking at the taxes going. It's a flight to Lagos, Canada, and the US, and the total taxes there is about $400. Nigerian tax alone from that 400 is $287. You can get more money when you have the volume, but if you prioritize money before volume, you're going to kill transport, and all you do is keep appointing directors and expanding directories in the agencies. Thank you and have a good day, everybody.
So your final words and that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is inevitable. It's most definitely inevitable that, one, we have to have that aviation infrastructure funds back up, perhaps with a sovereign, guarantee from the states. That's very key if you have to grow aviation. Then let me also say this. Maintenance. One thing is to have the airlines. Another thing is to be able to maintain the capability to maintain the airplanes. Otherwise, you operate for a period of time and the aircrafts are due for maintenance and they are dumped. Or they go for the maintenance and they never return back. So, government needs to look at this. But please, just 1 second. I need to mention this, and I have said this in 2-3 fora. If you want to successfully implement the single African air transport market and its complementary partner, which is the AFCAC, the African Trade Area, African Free Trade Area, we need to appreciate the fact that the executives of the sovereign states cannot do it alone. And I've said this on 2-3 occasions that each state in Africa are sovereign states. So if the executive proposed it, it has to go to the legislature, the parliament. And in the parliament you have representatives or members of the aviation committee. They have to key into this initiative. They have to buy into it. They are the one that can now help to push this initiative to reality. So executive must carry along the legislature in each of the sovereign states so that they can ensure the implementation accordingly.
Thank you very much. Chris, your final words?
Thank you. Yeah, it is possible to achieve SATM, and if SATM is achieved, it means Africa will become one big domestic market, just like we have in Europe. And who will be the benefactor? Africa. It means that the person growing stuff in Maiduguri can have them transported to Ouagadougou and they don't have to go back because there's no market for them in Nigeria. So at the end of the day, every economy benefits from SATM. Yes, on the airline part, because they will be the drivers for the process. They make the movement facilitation from one country to the other actually easier and in real time. We need to draw up, the framework. I know that it's been in the work, and it's been spoken, and the roadmap. Every stakeholder needs to know that it is important that we come to the table, and when that is done and achieved, you have the MROs, you have the foilers, you have everybody come to the table, and they know that we want to drive volume. In that volume too, everybody benefits. Because the name of the game is turnover, like Olumide says, I don't have to pay $287 as tax alone from one country. If it's one single market, it means that. So all of this will be removed. It can be $50, that government of Nigeria is making, but they are getting 70,000 traffic into Nigeria. 70 million traffic, it means that. But now we're struggling with 4 million, or so, both in and out internationally. We can drive 20-30 million, by $50, it means that we're actually getting a lot more. So I think it's, let's make haste while it's still day.
Okay, so on that beautiful note of less is more, I want to thank Dr. Aisuebeogun for a very instructive session. And thank you, Chris, for stepping up to the game as just within a very short time. And thank you, the listeners, for listening to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, let's celebrate them. Yes, Tony, come forward. Let's have a group photograph before they go. His Excellency Humphrey Gesbert is probably one of the most humane ambassador that we have in Nigeria. Please help me celebrate the ambassador of Namibia to Nigeria. Thank you so much, sir, for coming. Anytime you call on him, he will always show up. He's a great man. We celebrate you, sir. You're going to make a lot of travel easy for us in Nigeria. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for coming.